I'm Chris Gendall. My work, Violin Concerto, is a finalist in the 2019 SOUNZ Contemporary Award. Mark Menzies and I had lunch at the Nelson Composers Workshop one year. He was back from California when he was living there, and we discussed, or he requested a violin concerto from me, which was really exciting. We talked about what kind of shape that might take, and whether it would be, with electronics or with a chamber ensemble or orchestra. And I talked a little bit about my fascination with the Baroque concerto and how the form was in the Baroque era, particularly with player direction, so direction from the soloist, but also from the continuo, and how I might replicate that in my own musical language. At the time I was working on the violin concerto, I was quite preoccupied with the sounds of everyday life, kind of quotidian sounds, and how they impact the sounds that I create, or the sounds that composers create, and how they resonate and distort in our memory. And so I was recording and transcribing the things that I would hear: birdsong, the sound of water dripping into a glass, speech sounds, and in this case some tiny fragments from a very obscure disco song, which is maybe my kind of secret musical shame. And so I transcribed and analysed these fragments, looking at their kind of internal componentry, a kind of extreme close-up look at what these sounds were, and worked them into a kind of new musical colour and shape for this ensemble. The second movement is inspired in some way by bagpipe technique and the way that bagpipes create and manipulate sound, which is continuous. Once the bag is inflated and going and sending air through the chanter, the only way to create melodies or to alter the sound in any way is through fingering rudiments and ways of breaking that continuous source of sound. And so that movement, which is called chanter, bagpipe componentry, that has very long continuous gestures and often unbroken. The first movement's a little bit different. It's the gestures are shorter and much more high register. They're exploring the upper harmonics of the source material, and it's called recto verso, with the idea that things that go in reverse or things that go forwards have a different kind of gestural impact, and I look at ways of exploring that. One thing that I set myself, or one kind of restriction for this work, or I guess a kind of possibility for the way it was going to be performed, was that there wouldn't be a conductor, and that Mark as soloist and the celesta player as a kind of like a continuo player would direct it. So that was a sort of a limitation that I set myself, and something that's quite hard for somebody who writes very, very difficult rhythms. And so that ended up being kind of a stimulus in a way as well. So that's kind of a limitation, but in general I just found that the ensemble and the setup was was just liberating, and that I could really create any kind of sonic object or shape or discourse that I liked. This concert was really interesting because it was in the Christchurch Art Gallery. It was in spaces where the audience could move around the music. They could be in adjacent galleries and still hearing it. It was quite a different kind of concert experience and really interesting, and it was very enjoyable. But more than that, I'd been quite worried before the first rehearsal because of the difficulty of the musical fabric, the rhythms and the kind of microtonal activity, but my mind was quickly put at ease because the rehearsals went so well. Mark was fantastic, and the musicians of the Christchurch Symphony Orchestra were so detail oriented. They really wanted everything to be correct. The sounds they were creating were so beautiful, and it worked kind of amazingly well for me. Being a finalist for the SOUNZ Contemporary Award is, for me, an opportunity to celebrate the work that we do. As composers in New Zealand, there are some fabulous composers in New Zealand writing really amazing things. If only they could all be out as finalists for the SOUNZ Contemporary Award. But it's really nice to have this kind of platform to show and celebrate what we do, and to celebrate it in amongst areas of the kind of musical spectrum that don't often get to experience the kind of work that we create.